The NBA draft was last night, and it was pretty eventful. We got some new talent into the NBA. It's always a special night because a lot of these young guys, they've been working their whole lives to get to this point, and it's really magical for everyone, not just for the players and their family, but also to just see the players smile and see people who've worked super hard finally achieve their goals. You know what I mean? They say winners like to see other people win. And it's really, for me, it's really amazing. You see these guys that you've watched on overtime, highlights on overtime, or some other highlights you've seen on YouTube, and you see them finally make it to the NBA. For example, Emoni Bates. I've known about Emoni Bates for the past 3 years. And to see him finally get up on the stage and be selected, and his dreams came true. And then there's the super mega touted talents like Victor Wembanyama, who was selected as the #1 overall pick by the San Antonio Spurs. Everyone knew this was going to happen. This guy's been hyped up. Some have said he's a better prospect than LeBron James. I personally wouldn't have went that far. I think the amount of hype that they put on these kids these days is just kind of unfair, and that's what I think happened to not only Victor Wembanyama this year, but also Chet Holmgren last year. You guys forget, last year, Chet Holmgren was touted. Oh my God, he's the next coming of so-and-so. He's this guy. He's Kevin Durant, but better. We see it every draft cycle in which they are really hyped, right? Ever since Chet Holmgren was drafted, we haven't talked about him since. But amongst the guys that got drafted was Gradey Dick. Now, I'm interested in Gradey Dick because I'm a Toronto Raptors fan, and the Toronto Raptors selected him at the 13th pick overall. And my thoughts on him were, yes, perfectly. I made a video the day prior to the NBA draft, and I was talking about the changes that the Toronto Raptors were going to need to make. I talked about how the Toronto Raptors need to overhaul and change their direction and where they're going in the future. Because currently, the way that the Toronto Raptors are right now, they're not backing off the Pascal Siakam-led Toronto Raptors. And my opinion was that we need to do a rebuild. We need to find new talent, whether that's through the NBA draft or whether that's through free agency. Now, Gradey Dick was an amazing pick. I was hoping that we would pick him, right? If you go back to the last video I made, I was hoping that we would pick him because I thought that the Dallas Mavericks were going to get him. I'm surprised that he was there by the time we were on the board. And in that last video I made, I was like, wow, if he's there by the 13th pick, we got to get him. And to me, he's an amazing addition to the Toronto Raptors. He's exactly the sort of thing that the Toronto Raptors need to do in order to move in a different direction, which is rebuilding, right? Now, the Toronto Raptors are rebuilding, they're just not in a full rebuild, right? Evident by how they drafted Scottie Barnes, right? They drafted Scottie Barnes in a lottery pick 2 years ago, and then now Gradey Dick. And then next year, they could get another lottery pick. And that is a result of the trade that the Toronto Raptors made a long time ago for Kawhi Leonard. But back to Gradey Dick. I like this addition to the Toronto Raptors. He's exactly what we needed, right? Number one, the reason I like this pick for the Toronto Raptors is this. He is a great shooter. He was the best shooter in the entire draft. If you go back and you watch his highlights, this kid can shoot the lights out. I mean, shoot the lights out, right? And I think his shooting is only going to get better in the NBA. The way I see it, Gradey Dick's ceiling is Klay Thompson, and his floor is Luke Kennard or JJ Redick. He's going to be a beneficial asset to the Toronto Raptors when the Raptors finally figure it out. When the young guys that they're drafting now finally start to click. And another thing I like about this draft pick, even though he's a rookie, is this. The Toronto Raptors are going to need shooting. Why? Because it's very unlikely that the Toronto Raptors keep Fred Vanvleet. Rumors are that Fred Vanvleet's probably going to sign somewhere else. I've heard the Chicago Bulls been linked to Fred Vanvleet. I've heard the Philadelphia 76ers linked to Fred Vanvleet. And it's unlikely that they keep Fred Vanvleet. Fred Vanvleet was the best shooter that Toronto Raptors had, right? He played a huge role in the 2019 championship. He shot the lights out. And he's been the second best player on the Toronto Raptors after Pascal Siakam ever since Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry left. His talent, right? His particular set of skills, very coveted, very needed. Now, if he's gone, well, it's great that you now have a shooting guard in Gradey Dick that can just shoot the absolute lights out. I mean, off the dribble, catch and shoot, you name it, he's making it.